All right, you guys, happy Monday. I am here. And I got to tell you, Charlie Kirk discussing the JFK assassination, that sure is something. If you haven't yet seen this clip that's making the rounds, we have it for you. And it makes it kind of hilarious, even more hilarious, that the very organization that Charlie Kirk built is trying to sell to the public that the very idea of a government-sanctioned assassination is crazy. And on that point, another interesting lead has come in regarding the potential French connection, regarding which I should mention that Kash Patel has been directly asked about their potential involvement in Charlie Kirk's assassination. And his answer, his reply to that question is stunning. I should say, actually, it's a non-answer. So welcome back to Candace. What do you guys think Charlie Kirk would have said about his own assassination? Just think about that. What would his perspective have been on everything that we are currently being told, the people that are being attacked about it? I think about that actually often, and listening to his perspectives regarding political assassinations of the past, in retrospect, really is something. So at one of his, honestly, one of his last events in May of this year, Charlie was directly asked his opinion regarding John F. Kennedy's assassination down in Dallas, and here is what Charlie had to say.
In the JFK files, Mossad is mentioned. One of the reasons why Mossad is mentioned so much is that they're just a very good intelligence operation. It was not mentioned as if they were tied or that they knew about it or that they were involved. Again, I think the best reading of what happened there is who wanted JFK dead the most. Again, a lot of people said Israel wanted JFK dead. I'd love to hear that argument. But definitely Lyndon Baines Johnson and parts of our own government, and the Cubans wanted him dead. And who actually made it happen? There were like 15 or 20 things that happened that day that were inexcusable. They changed the parade route. He rode in an open-air convertible. LBJ decided not to ride alongside of him. The vehicle slowed down right when it went by the Texas School Book Depository. A lot there, right? And then, again, I think that all of us are smarter to believe that it was simply Lee Harvey Oswald. The more important question is not, oh, who did it? We have to first acknowledge it, that more than one person did it. Yeah. Once we acknowledge that more than one person did it, then we can expose our government to have lied to us about the JFK assassination, which then I think will sober a lot of us about trusting the government in the future.
I mean, yes, all of that. Thank you, Charlie Kirk, for reminding us that you had common sense, that you didn't accept force-fed narratives, that you did not accept the BS crap that our government has sold us regarding the one individual that was involved in JFK's assassination. Of course, multiple people were involved and a lot of strange things occurred on that day. That is what makes his answer there so compelling, okay? Especially in the midst of, well, MK Ultra 2.0. Remember the first government psyop on the people, MK Ultra. What actually came together, sorry, I should say Mockingbird 2.0. The first government psyop on the people following JFK's assassination, Mockingbird 1.0, to convince everybody through influence that there was nothing to see here, even though there was so much to see there. And now it's being deployed again, Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird 2.0, to convince people that questions about the Charlie Kirk narrative are just crazy, right? How dare you consider that there may have been employees at Turning Point USA who could be engaged in an obvious cover-up at this moment? Well, Pastor Frank Turek says that's so crazy because that would mean that Charlie Kirk hired people that ultimately betrayed him. And no one's ever been betrayed by people that they trust in the history of the world. Okay, well, actually, maybe that did happen for Jesus Christ. That's just one historical example of a person surrounded by somebody that they trust who would ultimately betray them. And yes, JFK, who personally selected Lyndon Baines Johnson to be his vice president, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was clearly implicated in JFK's assassination. Charlie rightfully says that is obvious by now. So yeah, it's all very plausible. Oh, and Charlie, you can see, does not readily dismiss the idea that the Mossad may have been involved. He says he'd like to hear more of an argument on that. as he asserts that definitively parts of our government had to have been involved. And he says the Cubans, the commies, wanted him dead. Charlie is encouraging the inquiry further. Who wanted JFK dead the most? Okay, well, we should continue down that path. Who wanted Charlie Kirk dead the most and why? And Charlie was very much in the political fast lane. Okay, and in the political fast lane, they want you dead for really one or all of these three reasons: money, secrets, and or power. We know that Charlie said no to money right before he died. I think that means he probably knew a secret right before he died. And there is no doubt that his youth political organization had achieved a considerable amount of political power. Could there have been global implications? Of course. People are laughing. They've been laughing this entire time because just following the evidence of what transpired on that day, a lot of odd things that transpired on that day, just like on the day of JFK's assassination, well, that pointed us into the direction of a particular satellite of countries and continents that have somehow come up in this investigation. I'll paint that for you now. Yes, we have mentioned France. Yes, we have mentioned Israel. Yes, we have mentioned the United States government. And yes, we have mentioned Egypt, which is in Africa. Wow, that seems crazy. People also laughed when I said that there was thereafter a viable threat, which came from the Macron couple who apparently paid for my assassination. And yet, strangely, neither the Pentagon nor the White House or our intel agencies or the Élysée Palace are disputing that narrative. And now we can add officially the FBI to that list of agencies that aren't denying that threat, because Kash Patel recently gave an interview to Megyn Kelly. And like an actual journalist and not a cutesy-wootsy influencer like Cam Higbee, don't laugh, Megyn Kelly asked him directly about the Macron couple and about the allegation that they attempted to orchestrate an assassination on my life, and of course, whether or not they could have been involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I have said, right? Here is what Kash Patel says in response, or rather what he doesn't say in response. Take a listen.
There's been an allegation made by prominent podcaster Candace that she's received a death threat, a credible death threat from the French, that a threat has been made on her life, and that the French, she's been told, also may have had a role in Charlie's assassination. Have you looked into either of those? Do you believe she's received a credible death threat from the French, or that the French had something potentially to do with Charlie's death?
Any American that receives a death threat from overseas or anywhere in America is going to be fully investigated. So we're not going to turn our eye away from that investigation or any others. If there's anything to it, this FBI will respond to it.
Okay, but so far, no.
So we are just looking at everything that comes in. We're not going to reject any piece of information. If someone feels that their life is being threatened, we are, of course, looking at it.
Do you want to involve me in you looking at it? Because actually it kind of left me on red. There has been no communication with the FBI. You are aware right there. Megyn Kelly is asking you directly about it, so you can't pretend you didn't receive it. And you are choosing to skip over. He completely skips over the part about me having asserted, which Megyn asks him directly, was France involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination? He doesn't even address that. Skips right over it and instead says, if any American has a threat, that's what we're here for. And she's like, okay, but was there actually a threat on if anybody, let's just kind of state it more broadly, we will take it seriously. Well, you're not doing that, Kash Patel. And I find it very odd that I said that I had proof that the government of France was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination, that they were on the ground that day. And you have not reached out to me. In this very interview that you are asserting that you are certain that Tyler Robinson is the only person involved, how can you be certain if you are not reaching out to people that claim to have verifiable evidence which could dispute that narrative? Does it seem to you like he's telling the truth there? Does it seem to you like he's being open and he's being transparent, or does it seem like he's intentionally being cagey because he knows that I am telling the truth, despite the many millions of dollars that is being spent on this Operation Mockingbird 2.0 campaign? Kash Patel knows that I am telling the truth. That's why they are turning to influencers to try to tell you not to look that way. Candace is crazy. Oh my gosh, like Candace must have made this up. But the people that are in power are not telling you that I made this up, even when they are given the opportunity to do so. They are choosing to stay silent, okay? And I am waiting for all of this to be uncovered because this is bigger than we could have ever imagined. And it is very clear to me that our satellite of nations involved in this is not so implausible. In fact, maybe it's very plausible that all of these states are somehow involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. So here's what happened after he went off air. I received a tip, actually from overseas, which has positively blown my mind. And it's blown my mind in a lot of ways, particularly because I had this intuition in terms of the things that I was researching and that were coming up, and we're looking into Utah and all of these things, that there was this chance that trafficking, like global trafficking, is could be involved here. Like that this could be maybe somehow Charlie was being asked to be brought in. He built an organization that has a presence, I think, in all 50 states, and that presents a certain opportunity, like for potentially trafficking. Now, the tip that we received was that we were very much on the right track and that there was another Pierre that we should be looking into, right? And what I'm going to say is, despite this tip and indicating that Turning Point, people that work with Turning Point or one of their, action organizations, who knows which organization, they have a few, took a meeting with this particular Pierre. We cannot verify that yet. We would like to verify that information. And if you know more, please email us, moretips@CandaceOwens.com. But I'm going to tell you that even if we can't verify that tip, just knowing who this person is, this person who lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, and is a billionaire, and that is where Turning Point USA is based, knowing this person's background is incredibly compelling, okay? This individual that they mentioned that we should take a look into or learn more about, his name is Pierre Falcone. Now, I had never heard of this individual, and I'm going to say allegedly again regarding the Turning Point USA connection. But his past is not allegedly, okay? He was involved in a scandal that almost brought down the French government. And it involved, here we go, Africa, Angola in particular, Israel, France, and the United States. Arms trafficking, okay? Weapons that were being trafficked into Africa. And this scandal came to be known as Angola Gate. And I'm going to do my best here to summarize it for you so that you get the gist of this. In short, the scandal happened during the civil war in Angola. So you have an African country, there is a civil war. You should just know instinctively that none of these civil wars are organic. No civil war ever was organic. Not even our civil war was organic. It's a bunch of Freemason lodges, deep state government involvement, and you can bet your money that the deep state is always involved when stuff is going on in Africa. Civilized countries are always involved in sponsoring civilizations being brought down. Anyways, it gets discovered during the course of French elections, and this is dating back to 1999, that the French government is actually involved in trafficking weapons, military-grade weapons, to Angola to facilitate this war. And they did this through an illicit network of countries. The public learns this, and it turns out that France is involved, Russia is involved, Slovakia is involved. They're using this company, which is known as Branco International, to sell these arms to the Angolan president. Now, Branco International is run by this guy. His name is Arkady Gaidamak. Of course, he is Israeli, initially born in Russia, and then right when Israel becomes a nation, he moves there. He's also, of course, the president of the Congress of Jewish Religious Communities, so you can't question anything he does. It's anti-Semitic. And his partner is Pierre Falcone. Pierre Falcone is born in Algeria. He moves to France after the Algerian Civil War. So I'm just going to bring up the players here very quickly. This is just from a website. that's called Corruption Tracker. You've got Pierre Falcone. He's the businessman, the main broker of the arms deals. He gets convicted of arms trafficking, breach of trust, a misuse of corporate assets, bribery. He gets sentenced to 6 years in prison, but then he gets cleared on an appeal. Okay, so technically he was found not guilty of this crime and then was sentenced to a reduced 2.5 years in prison. You have Arkady Gaidamak, who I just told you about. He's the other businessman, and he gets convicted, even though he never showed up, in France of arms trafficking, tax fraud, bribery, money laundering, you name it. You have the French interior minister that was implicated. You also have Francois Mitterrand, the French president's son, that was implicated in this. When I say high-reaching, as in like the president of France at that time was implicated via his son, who was involved in this. Basically, everyone was getting paid off of this. It ends up being 41 politicians involved, multiple states, and of course, multiple nations that are involved, including Angola. But you should know the scandal also touched the United States. Human rights groups demanded that Congress also probe the Bush administration's involvement because they claim they did a deal and got involved for oil. Of course, why do we have wars? Because they can go in and they can steal a country's resources. I hope you are awake to that by now. Everything that's being sold to you, fighting for their power, fighting for their rights, Muslims versus Christians, wealthy bankers that want resources, okay? I'm reading this Bush component from a website that's known as Corp Watch, and it tells us that, quote, known as Angola Gate, in France, the scandal involves arms for oil deals between French businessman Pierre Falcone, the head of a firm that was called Branco International, his colleague, Jean-Christophe Mitterrand, the son of the former French president, and a Russian-born Israeli named Arkady Gaidamak. According to All the President's Men, a March 25th report on Angola Gate by Global Witness, Gaidamak funneled billions of dollars in arms and oil-backed loans to Angola's government in return for lucrative oil contracts with Western oil companies. Falcone and Gaidamak, relying on the special access that Mitterrand had to the Angolan government, managed to transfer some $463 million in arms to Angola. And that's interesting. That is very interesting. Now, according to my sources in France, they say that the people of France were absolutely outraged. They found this to be naked corruption when he won his appeal. And then afterwards, Pierre Falcone just disappeared into thin air, disappeared from France, because as it turns out, he actually reappeared in Scottsdale. And what he's been doing since is anybody's guess. But we had some tips, which I'd like to pursue further. Since, again, he is in Scottsdale, and we know that Turning Point is very much involved in politics in Scottsdale, as to whether or not he still has a foot in politics. Are they familiar with this person? What we can say is that suddenly, for certain, we can say that that particular satellite of countries is not so ridiculous, okay? So the joke's on all of you guys who are trying to pretend that the idea that multiple nations could be involved in a scandal is just so far-reaching, okay? That is the former American mindset where we believed that our government were the good guys. And let me tell you, many of us have had our eyes open to the possibility that that wasn't so. All of us maybe were half asleep and thought, oh, well, there are some good guys. It's the left that's bad, or it's the right that's bad. The day that Charlie Kirk got publicly executed in front of the world and our government was just behaving in ways that indicated that they wanted to cover this up, that they were not interested in getting to the bottom of this, everybody woke up. Everybody is awake in the whole world right now that there is something much more far-reaching and nefarious that is going on. And trafficking is definitively, to me, a plausibility, because I believe that if you are an entrepreneur and you become successful in this country, meritocracy, we do not live in. No, I believe Tucker Carlson was right when he called that out on stage and started asking about how these people become billionaires. I believe that you, when you get to a certain level, have to decide whether you are going to join the gang okay? Whether you're going to join the gang of global governance, the gang that can snap its fingers and start a civil war in Africa. And if you have the nerve to say no to joining that gang and giving them access to whatever it is that you have created, you're a dead man walking. That's my perspective today on how this whole thing works. And yeah, I am very much thinking that it is definitively a sensible and a rational plausibility that Charlie Kirk came up against this gang, right? Like, you're with us or you're against us. And what I can tell you is we also received a tip from somebody within Turning Point USA that the night before he died, I know for a fact he messaged a donor and he messaged somebody at Turning Point USA. But I did not know, and this is what was told to me, that he also messaged Dan Flood, the security that's to his right, and allegedly explicitly said that they are going to kill me tomorrow. So again, that many people know that Charlie sensed that he was going to die tomorrow is an absolute fact. Why these individuals are all being quiet about that is a massive question mark, okay? And what we can say for certain is, of course, people will betray one another if money is on the line, right? And it could be for 30 pieces of silver, or it could be for billions. But things get complicated when there's a lot of money on the line. So we're going to pause there. We have a bunch of things that I want to show you when we get back. But first, let's go to sponsors. All right, you guys, I'll ask the question, what are you doing today to protect your tomorrow? Because waiting until later, that's not really an option. We're already living in the later. Well, you should consider adding gold into your financial strategy, because if economies destabilize and the markets get scared, currencies can lose their value, but gold does not always follow suit. Having some gold means that you're not 100% dependent on one system. You'll instead have something tangible. And for me, it's about planning and protecting. Of course, I'm not saying that you should run and dump everything that you have into gold. That would be as misguided as sticking with just stocks. But balancing your investments is crucial. If you're worried about retirement or worried about the current economy, then let this be your little nudge. Visit CandaceLikesGold.com to get your free 2025 gold and silver kit and learn how you can get up to 10% in free silver. Don't wait for the next crisis. Protect your future today. Call 855-815-GOLD or visit CandaceLikesGold.com. Again, that's CandaceLikesGold.com. Also, telling you guys again about PreBorn, because when we see people that are doubling down on abortion, we have to double down on supporting life. Through our partnership with PreBorn, we can help save babies and support mothers that are in need, because every day, PreBorn's clinics are rescuing hundreds of babies, because when a mother sees her baby on an ultrasound and hears that tiny heartbeat, her chance of choosing life doubles. And now, thanks to a generous match, your gift can be doubled as well. That means twice as many ultrasounds, twice as many lives saved, and twice as many mothers that are given hope. They also get diapers, car seats. They provide counseling to those mothers and care for up to 2 years. So if you've heard about PreBorn before and have not yet taken action, there is no better time than right now. Their work is some of the most important work to help heal our country. One ultrasound costs just $28. You can also give 10 times that amount if you can. Head to preborn.com/Candace to give. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. I honestly am wondering how it would actually work if you were trafficking weapons and you're trafficking drugs and you're doing this, which obviously our CIA has been engaged in trafficking. I mean, you could almost argue that that's what they were put together to do, the deep state. How does that work? Like, would you then have random military planes that are coming in and following people? And my imagination would be that probably the opportunity always exists when there's a really big event, right? Because people don't question when there's tons of trucks coming in. Like if it's a Taylor Swift concert, no one's going to question if there's tons of jets that are coming in and there's tons of trucks that are coming in. You just go, this must all be for the big show. Like, or the Super Bowl would be a great event, opportunity for people to traffic. And companies that have a lot of events would probably provide a pretty sound opportunity for people who are interested in those sorts of things to do that. I'm thinking about that now a lot. What's happening on the Operation Mockingbird 2.0 side is now they are all blaming me for the upcoming midterms. We're not going to win midterms. Like, we're not even close to that right now. But when that happens, it's definitively going to be Candace's fault. It's so ridiculous. I couldn't care less. Tim Pool has been one of these people that is crying a lot. So he hosted Milo Yiannopoulos on his show. And first and foremost, he called all of you stupid. He said, he explicitly said, I am saying that people that watch your show are stupid because they're not accepting the Fed slop and that they will not just eat the Fed slop that we are trying to give them. And then it was funny because later on in the show, he kind of lamented the fact that he lost a bunch of subscribers to his show because he attacked me, even though I never attacked him back. But he didn't put two and two together, which would imply that that means that people who are watching your show were also watching my show. So you're calling your own fans stupid, which is probably why they unsubscribed. Regardless of that, Milo Yiannopoulos breaks down the real reason why people are upset, the real reason that if we lose midterms, who we should be pinning the blame on. And he's come up with a way more compelling understanding, which is how we're all feeling. The person to blame if Trump loses midterms, if Republicans lose midterms, might be Republicans. It might be Trump. Here is what Milo had to say. And I will add that he is sitting also with George Santos, who joined them. Take a listen.
Jeffrey Epstein, as Bannon has said, and who would know better than him, it turns out.
You're going to quote Bannon, who consulted for Epstein?
I just said who would know better than him, as it turns out.
I just want to make that very clear for anybody listening.
I just said who would know better, as it turns out. He said that Epstein was the key that picks the lock, right? Of all of the kinds of things that people are asking, like, what is going on here? Why is this like this? And why is it? Epstein was one of the central ideological planks of MAGA teleology. Like, why does the world work like it does? Why do things look weird? Why do those people keep getting away with it and those people keep not getting away with it? Jeffrey Epstein was considered by everybody who voted for Donald Trump as a central pillar of understanding that we would unlock, and it would be like a code where bits of the universe would get like decoded for us. Like, oh my goodness, it's because of that judge. It's because of that. Everybody had that expectation, and there isn't one person who voted for Donald Trump who did not want and did not expect the Epstein files to be released immediately, in full, unredacted.
I did not have that expectation. I did not vote for Trump.
Okay, fine. Everybody except George, of course.
No, that's not true. There's so many people. I voted for Trump for many other reasons other than that.
Stop it, grow up.
You think that puts food on the table?
Grow up.
Oh, come on.
It's about egg prices. Stop it.
Come on.
The part of the reason that Trump was elected in 2016 was that Hillary Clinton was emblematic of the way that the world was going wrong. The secret elite collusion, Epstein, it was all linked. And people who voted for him the first time and people who voted for him every time since, you can't find me someone apart from George, apparently, who did not want to see the Epstein files.
Let me ask you.
And I promise I'll wrap up and let someone else go. But when he said, there's no Epstein files, and then the Democrats made it up, and then stop asking, and then if you're asking, you're not a fan of mine, and then if you're asking, I don't want you.
I agree with all of this.
That is the moment Trumpism died.
I agree.
And don't we need a reckoning? And if that reckoning comes through the obviously, I promise I'm nearly done, the obviously inadequate account from the feds and Turning Point about what happened around, before, and after Charlie Kirk's death, where his ride or die homegirl is asking questions that have exposed some inconsistencies and some questions, and which seem to point to a different etiology for the crime than the one that we're being told. And when everybody from Turning Point looks so sinister, suspicious, and guilty all the time, and they're losing to her. Respect the public on that at least. They're losing to her, and they have every reason to be winning. So she has every reason to be winning. Isn't it smart for us to have that reckoning in the Republican Party right now?
Amen. All of that, okay? All of that. And what I really like that he says there is respect the public on that. At the very least, respect the public, okay? We are voting right now. We are voting with our eyes. We are voting in terms of when we say, I don't want to listen to this podcaster because they're trying to get me to eat this Fed slop. This is how we're voting. I mean, so many people are going down. It's like something about the Charlie Kirk assassination. We're looking around and we're going, guys, are you really going to try to impart this operation upon us where you go, if we keep saying it, eventually the public will accept it. They'll just eat the Fed slop. And we're looking around and we're going, wow, I thought this person was a good guy. I'm feeling like this right now. I'm like, I really actually trusted this person. Man, I've worked with that person. I've collabed with that person. They're joining this side? You too? You too? You too? And the public is saying, no, there's not enough influencers that you can pay, okay, that is going to convince me that Charlie ate enough salad to stop a 30-06. respect the public on that. And they won't. They seem to not be doing it. They're like, nope, we just need more. It's more dollars that need to be spent, more articles that need to be written. We need to call the public more names. We need to call them a cult. We need to call them crazy. They're not respecting us on this point whatsoever. I do also want to say that the Hodge twins reiterated that point in a tweet. They said Republicans won't lose the midterms because of Candace Owens. They will lose the midterms because no deep state criminals have been held accountable. They will lose because we are still sending our money to corrupt foreign countries. They will lose because America's last traitors like Lindsey Graham are getting promoted. It is simple. Republicans will lose because they aren't listening to the people that voted for them. And that is also so well said. And speaking of the ridiculous Fed slop narrative, there is a YouTuber named Jesse Kague who has a channel called One Shot TV. It's all about guns. And he didn't have a horse in this race. Obviously, he's pretty upfront about the fact that, okay, the 30-06 narrative, I've seen bullets do weird things. In the 30-06, maybe if it hit your thigh, but I'm just going to test this fairly. And he is going to, and thank you to Mel, who is Village Crazy Lady, and Ryan Matta on X for bringing this video to my attention. But this guy, Jesse, is going to test the 30-06, and I want you to watch it.
All right, guys, we have a couple different rounds we could use for this test. There is like 1,000 30-06s out there, and that's one reason why I wasn't ready to just jump in doubting the story right away, because we don't even know what kind of ammo was used. It could literally be anything. So the first one we have is the 180 grain full metal jacket ball round. This is one of the most common 30-06s out there, this and the 150 grain. If you go to a gun shop and just ask for 30-06 ammo, this is probably what they'll give you. If I had to guess, I would honestly say he probably used something like this, just because it is the most common round out there. The second one that we have is a lot more interesting. This is the 150 grain Hornady ballistic tip. I actually bought this one specifically for this test, just to give us the highest chance of something stopping in the target. Okay, this is how we're gonna set this one up. I have our ballistic dummy bust on a table in the front. I do have it slightly angled so we can hit the target that we're aiming for. Behind it, I have 3 5-gallon water jugs, just in case the bullet over penetrates. Maybe we'll get lucky and actually capture it. And then what I'm gonna do is pull my truck back here and try to use the roof to get a slight downward angle on the target, just like it was in real life. Unfortunately for this video, I'm not gonna be able to take the shot at 140 yards. I got too many cameras to operate. I did do that in our first video though. If you want to see it, I'll link it right here. I just wanted to show you how easy it was and how close that actually is. With this caliber, trust me, it's a chip shot. There's gonna be almost no difference between 30 or 40 and 140. It's a 1,000-yard gun. So we might be gaining a few feet per second, but ultimately the result will be very similar. Well, we definitely penetrated our water jugs, and I don't think this is gonna help to stop the conspiracy theories. His head fell off.
Look at that. I mean, watch that.
All right, guys, I figured this is probably what would happen. I was trying to remain optimistic, but that right there is why people are skeptical on the official story. The 30-06 is a very hard round to stop.
Yeah, so I wanted to show that because I realized there's a bunch of people who may not be gun enthusiasts. Obviously, that channel is dedicated to it. And just so you understand and really appreciate what the federal government is trying to sell to you right now. That's what we mean when we say that particular bullet would have decapitated Charlie. Like you see, like actually, it just, the idea that that just like ricocheted and went inward is just so beyond ridiculous. It's insulting. And they think that if they send out these like glee boys, like Nick Fuentes acting, you know, someone who looks like he's never even been traversed into nature before, that if they really put on the theater, then a bunch of hunters are going to go, yeah, I see what you mean, man. It's never going to happen. It's just never going to happen. And so at some point, they are going to either just, I don't know, have to declare war on the American people. Like, never mind. we're just going to go to war with you because you won't accept it. Or they're going to have to give us something that's truthful. Somebody is going to have to come forward and say something that makes sense. And because I believe that this conspiracy is so far reaching, because I believe it is exactly like the JFK assassination, and people close to Charlie are aware of things, that they sold him out in many ways every single day that goes by where they don't tell us the truth and they're not honest about the anxiety that Charlie had the night before he died. They look more and more guilty. I am convinced that they're just going to try to hide it further. I truly believe that the deep state is involved in this assassination and multiple states are involved and they don't know what to do. I think they've completely come undone because they believed that with enough money and power, they would get away with it. But at the end of the day, common sense seems to be ruling the roost. All right, we're going to take another break before I get to some of your questions. All right, you guys, here is how it works. You actually have two ages, your actual age and then your body's internal biological age. Because many Americans eat so many processed foods and not enough fruits and veggies, they're actually 10 plus years older on the inside than they are on the outside. A major university study suggests how to slow aging. Participants slowed their aging down by drinking Field of Greens. That is all they did differently. They didn't change their eating. They didn't change their drinking or exercising. They just started consuming Field of Greens. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was doctor selected for specific health benefits like cell health, heart, lung, kidneys, and metabolism. I feel great knowing how Field of Greens can slow down how quickly I'm aging, and I encourage you guys to join me. Swap your untested fruit, vegetable, or green drink for Field of Greens while there's still time. Check out the university study, and you'll get 20% off when you use promo code Candace by visiting fieldofgreens.com. Again, that's fieldofgreens.com, promo code Candace. Also remind you guys about American financing, because what if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? Imagine putting those 2 payments instead in your pocket and finally getting a little bit of breathing room ahead of the holidays. Well, that is possible if you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas bills, everything piling up, you should know that you're not alone, because most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and credit card rates are insane, in the 20s or even the 30s. Well, American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off that debt with rates that are in the low 5s. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and save money every month, all without any upfront fees. Their customers are saving an average of $800 a month, which is like a $10,000 a year raise, and you don't have to change your job. Call American Financing today. The number is 800-795-1210. Again, that is 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, our top comment from last episode came from Joanne. That, of course, last episode was regarding Blake Neff and his diatribe of, why Turning Point took a while to respond. Joanne writes, "We hoped it would go away. It's the first truthful sounding statement made so far from Turning Point USA, that we hoped it would go away." Yeah, I think genuinely everyone was sort of hoping it would go away. Laughing Cats Music World writes, "Could you please draft a strong post to TPUSA asking the questions that we all want answers to? Why $1.5 million was sent to a 110 LLC, which routes to a Safeway strip mall? Why is the Doge audit suddenly no longer happening? Can we see Mikey's call logs and the metadata before and after 12:23 p.m.? Much more." And fam, follow John Mappin and read his essay, "The Perfumed Pervert." Look, they have said they're going to be doing something in the near future to answer questions. And I would imagine that if it's once and for all, these would be some of the questions that are going to have to be answered, or it won't be for all, right? Asado Braz writes, "I was an atheist a few months ago, and watching this whole series, the Brigitte series, and doing my own research has led me to buying my first Bible. Thank you for speaking truth. It is changing lives." Yes, ultimately, you will get to the point of recognizing that there is a very sinister war on Christ, is what it's always been about. A war on truth is what it's always been about. And that they have propagandized us sufficiently into believing it's like, Muslim versus Christian, it's blacks versus whites, it's left versus right, it's America versus Germany. And they have been very good at that. I would say that they've been very good at propagandizing and making us believe things that aren't so. Ultimately, it has always been a war on Christ. And that's why you just find in all of these countries that Christians are being mass murdered and slaughtered, and the finger is being pointed at Muslims I think actually just this past weekend, it was revealed. Am I correct that, Qatar came out, Tucker Carlson did an interview, and they said the reason why we have a relationship with Hamas is because the U.S. government asked us to establish one. And everyone's like, oh, okay, another terrorist organization in which the U.S. intelligence agencies have their hands in. Like, duh, this is how it works everywhere in the world since always. Diana Sheehan writes, if crime is involved, do TPA employees still have to stay silent? I guess you mean TPUSA employees. Keep going. Sweet Jesus, help Esther save our nation. I mean, if they want to keep their jobs, they'd have to stay silent. But obviously, a lot of leaks that we've received have come from TPUSA employees. So they are doing the right thing. And that's why we shouldn't discount that there are good people that are in that organization. Corruption everywhere, whether it's the government, whether it's at a big corporation, it tends to happen at the top because only the top has the power to be corrupt, right? If you're on the bottom and you're doing something wrong, they're just going to fire you. AZ Master Baker writes, Erica with Barry Weiss on the 13th, I think that's this month, TPUSA podcast to debunk things scheduled for the 15th, TPUSA AmFest on the 18th. Nothing is a coincidence. They want to squash all of this by AmFest. I'm sure it's probably also motivated by the fact that they don't want this to go into next year. So they're hoping that if they finally respond and things have gotten too big, then things have gotten so big, we obviously have to say something. It's not going away. Hopefully we squash this. It's the end of the year. People come back refreshed. They feel like they have the right answers. So they might be motivated by goodness, and we won't know until we hear what those answers are to all of these burning questions. CCXX writes, praying for you daily. TPUSA's credibility is on the line. We took out the life insurance. Oh, who took out the life insurance policy on Charlie? And where did that $1.5 million go to and why? Go Max, Candace. Yeah, we'll get into that tomorrow. I did see that the Daily Mail broke the story about the life insurance policy that was taken out. I mean, some of that obviously is normal to have a life insurance policy if you are married to somebody. Whether or not there were corporate implications is a whole nother ballpark question. By the way, that also could be normal as well. So I try not to speak about things that I'm not too educated about, but I have asked some questions and hopefully I can supply some answers. Also, it has similarly been going viral this weekend, which I didn't get to. People that are saying that Charlie Kirk has not yet been buried yet. I told you that he had a Catholic funeral mass. And so some people were tagging me in that. And I do have more to say about that. And I will use tomorrow to do so. But yeah, I did see that going viral and I did not ignore that. I was checking some things and yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow. By the way, if you want to support the show, you can obviously head to CandaceOwens.com, buy some merch. You can also go to makehimasandwich.com and buy direct from us to get our book. It'll be 20% cheaper than if you get it on Amazon, but that might be more convenient for you. So you can go on to Amazon and buy Make Him a Sandwich. No matter what you do, we appreciate the support as we maintain our independence because we don't want to pledge no gangs, man. I'm not here for gang culture, and I'm sorry. I don't want to be controlled in that way. We'll see you guys tomorrow.